episode, we're going to be diving into the exciting topic of artificial intelligence in agriculture. At Precision AI, they are on a mission to accelerate artificial intelligence-based farming practices to create healthier, happier, and more profitable farms. They offer a sustainable approach to crop protection, the environment, and farmers' bottom lines. I'm super excited to have Dan McCann, CEO of Precision AI, on the podcast today. You can find Dan on LinkedIn and Twitter, or you can also visit the Precision AI website at www.precision.ai. We did have some questions from Twitter, so I'm gonna share those. So the first one is from Jeff Gilbert. He's asking, will this system be affordable for small farms to implement?
Yeah, actually more affordable than the other solutions, because like I say, the nice thing about this is that you could actually implement the drone survey as a service. You don't even have to own the asset yourself. I mean, you can, but like drones are a lot cheaper than traditional farm equipment. So that's one of the benefits of the solution is that we actually the Canadian government actually put out a challenge, and that challenge was it was called Scaling Down Precision Agriculture, and what it said is that based on the data, all of the new innovations in agriculture are coming out on like the expensive equipment, or they're just like really pricey. So they're really only affordable or usable by the larger farming operations, and like the smaller farms are kind of being left in the dust. It was something like auto steer was implemented by 61% of farms, and that out of that 61%, like something disproportionate, like 95% were like 5,000 acres or over, right? So it's you've got this part where the rich get richer and the smaller farms continue to struggle with competitiveness, and so they put out this challenge and they said, are there any companies out there that can bring precision agriculture down to the small farm? And so we put up our hand and said, I think we can. Right, because the drones don't cost a lot, it's definitely within the profit margins of a smaller farm to actually do this. So you can kind of scale this technology and make it accessible to the smaller farms, or you can swarm a whole pile of drones at once and scale it up to the larger farms. And so that's sort of the benefit of using sort of small low cost drones is you can use one if your farm is small, or use 20 if your farm is gigantic, and just it sort of depends on how much of an investment you want to make. And again, the second part of it is even if you don't want to make the investment at all, maybe your local agronomist wants to buy a drone and is happy to do it for you as a service, or there's a drone pilot out there, and then you're only paying a per acre fee and then saving that money on chemicals, so you don't really have any upfront investment except for the survey. So there's lots of different ways it can be made affordable for the smaller farmer.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is one of the exciting things about these types of technologies is it's actually more easily able to fit the different sizes of farms. And there's some things like if you want to buy a big sprayer, you need a certain amount of acres to pay for that, right? And so I think that's going to be really good. And I think we've talked lots about this, but with these type of services, the fee for service may be very attractive. So instead of a farm, or even Eberhard Farms maybe initially learning how to fly drones and have drone guys and do all the stuff and figure it all out, well, if we can initially start as a fee for service, and it's a similar cost, or maybe even lower than it would cost us to run a regular conventional ground type sprayer, plus we're saving all this money, I believe there's probably going to be some of these technologies in the future where it will literally be cheaper and way more efficient and way more effective to just have it done as a service, and we can spend more time with our family, more time focusing on the other areas of the business that needs our attention. And so that's one of the things that I love about this is there's no real the limitations to scale is more of a challenge on the larger end when you're trying to maybe manage more multiple fleets of drones and those kind of things, right? All right, next one, Holden.
The second question is from Tyler Wilson. He said, why not go beyond green on green and go straight to robotic manual weed control to eliminate consumer concerns of use of chemicals?
Great question too. I think eventually it'll get to that point. One of the challenges that you have in doing that right now is that mechanical weed control at large farm scales is actually extraordinarily challenging to do from a logistics standpoint. It's just very slow. So if you want your whole farm to be mechanically weeded, it can be done, but it's going to take a lot of time and it's going to require a lot of machines and a lot of assets, and the costs kind of spiral out of control pretty quickly. So, like I say, at some point in the future, I think we'll get there once the machines become cheap enough and fast enough. But it's just too far out to really be something that again can scale. If you've got a really small farming operation, it might be able to work for you. But to scale right now, it's too hard, too expensive. but it will come. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that I bring up lots in our discussions, Dan. Right? Like I think in the future we will kind of leapfrog away from chemical, but on the same hand, realistically, it's like saying, well, we're going to produce all the food and grain in the world without any commercial fertilizer, right? And there's still the vast amount of production that goes on. There still is going to be need for chemical for a long time, but I think we can just be incredibly more efficient with that, along with a lot of other inputs. And what I'm excited about is once we start layering all these different pieces of information together, there's so much more insights that can be gained that are kind of complementary. But yeah, it's going to take some time, and that's where we're going eventually. But there's still going to be a lot of chemical use for quite a while, I think. So next question is from the folks at Solios. Do regulations prevent you from using your drone when it is out of your site?
Currently, today, yes. There are companies out there that have gotten beyond line of sight exemptions. And there's a huge amount of regulatory push right now for beyond line of sight type of drone operations, and we believe that based on the progress that's happening in the U.S. with drone deliveries and a lot of the lobbyists and pressure groups that are going on with those types of things, and as well as the supporting technologies to allow that, you are going to see that become more and more commonplace. But is that going to take a year, or is it going to take 5 years? We don't know. But beyond line of sight will eventually become a standard. We just don't know how long it's going to take to get there.
So the last question is from David Bade. How small of a plant would be too small for the technology to pick? Might you miss small weeds?
Yeah, that's actually that's a great question, and that's one of the reasons we've invested into this and why it's into the camera systems that we have, and to be able to see sub-millimeter resolution, so we actually can see those weeds, those small weeds. As a matter of fact, we've demoed that for a few partners out at your farm there as well too. The ability, that was exactly their question. They wanted to see it, and we showed it to them, and that's sort of the single part that blew them away the most, is just like, how do you go that fast and see that small weeds at the same time? And we were able to do that. But it's very, very, very challenging. It's not easy to do.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see how accurate it can be. I mean, there's a lot of variables of what I just didn't even realize, but sunlight, is there shading from other weeds? What depth is the seed row? Like all these different variables that can affect the image and the sensing. But yeah, it was interesting to see some of the partners that we were demoing to, just the kind of eyes light up and get big, and when they kind of realize what this technology is currently doing, the state that it's at, and the excitement about the potential of that. So that was really cool to see. Well, that's awesome, Dan. It's been an awesome journey here in the podcast. It's been on my bucket list a bit to get you on since probably a year and a half or 2 years ago, since we started working together. So finally got that ticked off. Thanks a lot so much, Dan.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Terry. It's been exciting. I'm really happy that you had me on here, and I hope it was good for you and for your listeners.